Welcome back. We have been building client-side routing library with Svelte in the past few videos. If this is the first video that you are watching, well, you're missing out a lot. So I attached the link to the playlist for this series in the description below so that you can go and hit and watch them. Unless you are so smart that you think that you can just jump in straight and watch this one, right? Yeah, maybe you are. But anyway, let's recap on what we have talked about in the last video. So in the last video, we managed to listen to pop state events so that we can handle, so that when we click on back button or use history.back API, we can go back, we can update our contents and see the, not just going back, we can update our screen so that it shows the previous page. And after that, we basically have our client-side routing library almost ready, production ready. I hope so. But we realized that there's something that we should optimize for, right? I showed you the bundle code, and I can show it right now again. Over here, this is our bundle code in the this folder, and you see that immediately we have 3 components within a route definition. That's correct. But these 3 components are actually, you try to search for A, these 3 components are the content, the code for these 3 components are within the same bundle. So you have A over here, you have B page over here, you have the C over here, right? C with a H1 with C and a button in the back, right? Trust me, if you can't understand like this jumble up code, don't worry, trust me. Yeah, trust me, what we have over here is we have all the code bundled into one bundle. If you don't trust me about this code, just look at the assets folder. You only have one file, meaning all the codes are in that one file, right? If this file, this file itself can run smoothly, then which means all the code is within this one file. And this is what we don't want. We want to because as you add more and more routes to your to your code, to your application, then this file will increase and bloat in size. And if the user only visits some of the pages, not all of them, then you are sending code that the user would never ever gonna use, which is not good, right? User should we should try to just give the user as much code as he needs. And as he explores to more pages of your application, then you just give the user more code to show those pages. So how are we gonna do that? Well, if you've been developing web front ends for a while, web application for a while, you should know that there's this thing called a dynamic import that will allow us to dynamically import code and dynamically loads codes in the browser. And so we're gonna use that. To use that, we probably were gonna change a bit in our routing implementation because that thing returns a promise. And so after we match a route, we have to wait for the promise. We have to wait for the promise before we can actually use that component to render on the screen, right? So let's see how we can change that. Sorry to jump in, but I got an important thing to tell you, which is that if you're following along, coding along with me, the code for all this is on the GitHub repo. Link in the description. Just follow along. If you miss any steps, each changes are in individual commits. So you can just check out that commit and take a look at what you are missing. Now follow along. So over here, we have to change our definition. We can't really import this directly anymore. We're gonna use a dynamic import like this. So I'm gonna change it over here like this. This is dynamic import, and this is still not correct. I will show you later on why is this not correct. Yeah, always too many steps ahead. Let's just focus on things over here, right? Let's say we have this, right? Which means our definition is wrong because the component will be a promise of a Svelte component rather than component itself. So if here which means that once we matched a component, I think not found also we should dynamically import it. So we're gonna say not found equals to import this one, right? So not found is this. So this gives us a promise, and we can't use a promise as a constructor. We're gonna wait for it. So we're gonna match component. Match component dot then. So this probably I'm gonna call it to match component promise dot then the match, and it resolves with match component. Then I'm gonna use that component to show the screen. Right, and I guess that's it. So let's try and take a look at how is the result. Let's see. Here we have our Here, let's refresh this. Hold on. Okay, let's refresh this. Is there an error? I feel like there's error. If everything works on the first try, I'm too genius, and that's like impossible. Okay, so match component is not a constructor. Okay. So yeah. So this one returns the promise that we resolve, but but svelte component when you import is a default export, right? So we need to get the default export of this thing. So it's like this default. So you can write it this way if that's your style, or you prefer something like this, like default is this, and then this is the, so you destructure it in the parameters so they get the default properties of the parameters and then use it directly. That works as well. So either case it works. And let's see if everything still works after we change the way that we specify our component. So we kind of go to this, still works. Gonna go here, it still works, and yeah, it works. So let's refresh this page. Let's open our network tab and let's take a look at our network. Right. So of course we don't know what's the content. So let me just go full screen so that you can see clearer, so that my head is not blocking. I'm gonna hide. I try to. Okay, I think we should open this on the side like this. Open out real white. Okay, so I refresh this page. You see abc.svelte is being loaded. Which is still incorrect, right? Yeah. Well, it feels like it's still incorrect. But let's try and build it, right? Let's try and build and see whether why it's kind of not working, right? So let's try and build this. Run npm run build. Well, it is working well. We have multiple chunks over here, right? So if I come over here and we take a look, each route is actually its own chunk, right? If you go to the link index over here, we try to, hold on, is this the previous build or no? It's the same build, but I'm not sure why there's two copies. So if you come over here, we try to search for C, it's not here. We try to search for C, it's not here. C is only in here, right? It's in your C chunks, right? It's in the C file only, right? And then B is only have the content for B. Wait, do I have? Yeah, B is only in here. Okay, did I search correctly just now? C. Somehow this is, oh sorry, yeah, C is here, B is only in here. So you split the code into different files. Sometimes they call it a code splitting. You split into different files so that index.js will, when you download the index.js, you only get the base of the code so that user does not lose everything, right? Hopefully that works. So let's try a preview again and inspect element, inspect our network. Hopefully we just only, when we view So what we hope to see is that when we go to the home page, the A routes, you only see the A file being loaded, right? Let's refresh. No, it does not work. A, B, and C, they are all loaded. Even not found is being loaded. Why? Well, let's come back to take a look at the code again. Well, as I predicted, something was wrong, right? So this way is wrong because, well, it is a valid code, but it's wrong in terms of this is not achieving the behavior that we want to. The dynamic import does help us to create a separate file, but you're calling this import function too soon. As soon as you call it, the browser will download this file. So you cannot call it like this, you have to call it lazily. So instead of providing this like this, we're going to provide it with a function. So when we want component, we only call this component function when we want to render this component. And with that only we call this import. So not just using dynamic imports, that already helps us to split into different files. But if you call it too soon, as in like call it immediately, as you run this query routing, if you call it immediately, then you're still loading that file. So we can only import that file lazily. So we can make it as a function so that we can call the function only when we need it. So here we have to update our route definition. This will be a function that returns the promise, which means the not found is also should be a function that returns this not found component. And which means that here we can only we have to call that function and then then we resolve that dynamic import promise, and then we use that component to show on the screen. So let's see. Okay, let's kill this. Let's try build again. Let's try preview. So let's clear this and let's refresh. And this time around it works, right? Only load A when we are visiting the A page. And if we visit B, only loads the B code. As we go back to A, of course the browser is smart enough to cache it. So when you call import of the same module again, the browser does not load it anymore. If we try to go to C, yes, we load the C code. If we go back to A, B, C, A, yes, it works. It only loads the code that we need as we navigate to them. That's code splitting and dynamic loading, right? So, yes, give yourself a pat and congrats, you make it so far. So let's try to slow down the network a bit. Let's refresh this page first. Let's try to slow the network down to slow 3G. And let's try to load this URL. Immediately you see that one thing is that the whole page disappears and reappears again. Until you show this B. So that you see that we flashes of like a white space until you show the next page, right? And that's if you look at this screen together with me, you notice that duration of like showing a flash of blank page is when we are loading this B component. Right, let's go back to A. That does not have we don't have the flash because the A component is already in the memory. We don't have to load it. But when you go to C, do notice that you will see loading, and as soon as it's finished, you'll see the screen shows up with the C page. But as we click on it, when we are fetching it, the screen goes blank, pending, blank, show, done, right? So is this what your user of your routing library wants? Can we still show the previous page until we change the page? Can we show like a loading bar on top while you're navigating? Right, that's quite common when you click on any page on, like, say, application like, I think YouTube does that. When you click on the link on the video, it kind of load. It shows I'm not sure if it's a real or fake indicator that's like saying it's trying to load. And as soon as that finishes, you see your screen being updated with the new page. So while navigating, you still see the old page. So we're gonna fix that in the next video.